Welcome in. This is your odds checker betting preview for this week's Open Championship. I'm Rick Gehman. That right there, the one, the only Geoff Fienberg. Geoff, happy Open Championship week.
Open Championship week, and I am thrilled to be doing these videos with you week in, week out now for our friends at Odds Checker US. I think this will be a really fun dynamic. I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to picking your brain, getting inside there, finding out what's going on. I think this is going to be sweet. So let's do it. The board for this week's Open Championship is awesome, but as with most Open Championships, the course tends to kind of steal the show at times. Geoff, Royal St. George's this week, early reports, rough looks thick, wind is going to play a huge role, and of course, we always kind of give a nod to some of those Euro players who might have that more links style experience in their game.
Yeah, always. I mean, even coming off a podcast yesterday with my partner in crime, Pat Mayo, Rick, I was taken aback at like how much someone like Pat, or maybe even someone like you, literally is acknowledging like non-model things you can't quantify. Literally, like strokes gained guts and strokes gained magic beans. We even made the joke about, because, you know, I always like to make my jokes that Spieth has his magic beans, but you go to Open Championships and it's something that you can't quantify with numbers, but in terms of making an outright bet, if you don't believe a guy has the guts to pull it off, you can't hit submit on a webpage.
There is so much about an Open Championship that you can't quantify. You're not going to be able to understand the wind fully. The weather's going to change quickly. The margins are very small on every single hole. Big numbers add up very quickly. There's just a lot. So I'm with you. I think this is kind of a gut look at the top of the board, and that's where we're going to start here. And we've got to start with the man on top. It's Jon Rahm, who you can get anywhere from plus 750 to plus 900 at PointsBet. That's the best number currently available on Rahm. And while he has only lost to a total of 6 golfers over his last 3 starts, feels like a pretty big pill to swallow at this number, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, I mean, like many of you, I've been priced out of being able to bet Jon Rahm. I'd rather go make a full card. I mean, I won't be doing it, but you could even almost take like 2.2 of the next golfers that are out on the tout board. The summer of Rahm, maybe it's upon us, Rick. We all knew that we were on the precipice of something like this for him. I am still not fully there, though, that the gap between Rahm and that next tier is as large as the betting books have it. I do stand on the hill. Rahm is the favorite. Rahm is the best player in the world, even if he doesn't carry the ranking at the moment. But the gap between him and the other super elites, I don't believe is as wide as the sports books want us to believe at the moment.
That's where I'm at. It's the gap. It's not that Rahm is not deserving of being the favorite, but Brooks Koepka 16-1, Jordan Spieth 20-1 over at William Hill, Rory McIlroy getting that same 20-1 number along with Xander Schauffele, and then DJ at 22. What are we doing here with these guys who are seemingly better values than Jon Rahm and almost just as likely to win the golf tournament?
Yeah. And sort of at the U.S. Open, love Jon Rahm, but I decided, you know what? I'm planting my flag and say Bryson and Rory. And I went to the back 9 at the U.S. Open and like, okay, I like we're here. Let's see if we can do it. And they both faded, and obviously Rahm won. If someone sort of took that exact same strategy and picked a couple of these guys, I would think that could be very prudent. I have made a very rare decision for me, though, Rick, as it pertains to major championships. I've skipped this range entirely as well. My opinion, though, would be Rory McIlroy and Dustin Johnson. I think those are the 2 guys drifting the hardest. Everyone is sort of sleepwalking on Dustin, who we know had the chance here last time, who I think his struggles, his results are kind of overrated. But hey, I guess when the top number 1 ranked player in the world doesn't T5 in a few events, there's this perception. I think that's all overblown. So Dustin and Rory would be the super elites, as I like to call them, that I do lean to, but I have decided to skip them all.
Very interesting. Okay, Dustin Johnson 22-1 over at DraftKings. We're moving down, and I think I'm not sure if I'm going to hit your guy yet, but we've got to talk about the big beefy one, Bryson DeChambeau, because this is the largest discrepancy kind of across the board. What we're seeing right now, you can get Bryson at 14-1 at William Hill. Do not recommend that, because you can get it at 33-1 over at DraftKings. His range of outcomes seems to be the widest, and maybe that's being reflected in his just staggering prices all over the place.
Listen, I woke up yesterday. A lot of people saw that Bryson number drift, and I'm auto betting Bryson. What are you doing, Fienberg? You in on Bryson? I am like a Bryson disciple. I am a Bryson loyalist, but I am just gonna pass, Rick. I'll feel silly if it does play the other way and he is able to overpower this course. But I don't know. There are just too many variables for me. I'd love to see him break out that scientist that we remember entering the tour as. I don't think that's totally gone. For him to fully incorporate some level of strategy this week would be prudent. But as of right now, and the wind is changing all the time, the conditions for me are not lining up with a Bryson DeChambeau bet.
Yeah, I think he is perfectly designed for American golf, for PGA Tour golf. I worry a bit with some of these small margins and things that can start getting out of hand very quickly for Bryson if he's just a little bit off. Okay, I'll continue to scroll, Geoff. How far do I have to go before I find somebody for you here, bud?
I don't think that far, because we talk about it a lot, or I like to talk about it a lot, Rick. Well, I always do like to get cocky and plant my flag near the very top and saying, like, of these 6 or 7 superstars, I'm gonna pick one to win, because that's how it goes. It is that range of, say, 30, 60, 70-1, maybe even tighter, 30, 60-1. That's been that hot pocket of first-time major champion winners. That is where I enjoy betting major championships. And if you follow my stuff regularly, you probably won't be too surprised with a lot of the names that are going to come up shortly.
All right. Well, that range includes guys like Colin Morikawa, Patrick Reed, Tommy Fleetwood, Victor Hovland, Matt Fitzpatrick. Can I offer you any of those guys or someone else in this range?
No, you've hit on a couple. But before I do get into that, I need to ask you a question, Rick. What are you doing with the youngsters in terms of the outright market? We like to write them off and say the Masters is debutants, but breaking down the numbers, last 9 Open Champion winners, an average of 12 Open Champion appearances. Spieth with 4 is the shortest path to victory when he won, and Els at 22 is the longest end of that. But that'd be a lot of golfers with 0 or 1 appearances to blindly cross off a list, would it not?
It certainly would be, especially for guys that I think are pretty special. The Morikawas and the Hovlands.
They're built differently.
Yeah, they're not your regular.
With Mayo, the kids today, they're just built differently, just like quarterbacks. Like, no, they go out there and they win Super Bowls in year 2 or 3 now. That just seems to be what happens. They're built differently. There
was a time where, these guys would have to play on the PGA Tour for a couple years and kind of, take their lumps and learn the ropes. It's not like that anymore. They're coming out, they're winning, they're ready to go in college. Their skills are phenomenal. They know they can compete. Yes, there's going to be aspects of a true Links style course that, might worry me at times, but no, I think we'd be wrong to blindly start crossing off some of the best players in the world.
Yeah, and obviously I'd say Scotty and Hovland and Morikawa are probably the captains of that team. I haven't made a move on any of them, although Prince Victor, I could see him not, just like Darren Clark and Ben Curtis. They were in 4 greenside bunkers all week because they just struck it so well. Like, that wouldn't shock me one bit if a Colin or Victor did just that. Tyrrell Hatton is where I started my card, Rick. I spent the entire weekend scouring the depths of the internet for the best number available on Hatton. Before everything sort of came to full bloom, I was myself able to catch a 45-1. While those are really still not available, the 33-1 is the high water mark I'm seeing at Resorts Casino on that odds checker grid. As low as 22-1 at DraftKings. The discrepancy is there. But for me, pound for pound, the best links golfer on the planet. If you have won back-to-back Alfred Dunghill Links championships, it puts you in a very finite group of golfers who could enter that conversation. I stared at it like I could bet Bryson at 33 or Hatton essentially at the same number. And I'm not debating who's better, but one is just like such a better fit for everything I think this week asks. He does fit a lot of those long range trends with the recent win and the top 10s here. Checks all my boxes. I've been betting him too much to abandon ship now. So that is where I start. And I'm piggybacking that, Rick, with Patrick Reed.
Okay.
Patrick Reed available at 40 to 1. That's a good consensus on the odds checker grid, but a high water mark of 40. Honorary European Tour member, top 10 ranked golfer in the world. His last 7 majors, 10th, 13th, 8th, 7th, 19th. That's 7 straight top 20s and major championships. Not to mention guts and a belief in the guy. It's the easiest submit I hit all week was Patrick Reed, going to the wall with him. He's on a nice run of form, and I finally took a week off, so hopefully he's refreshed. And well, Jordan Spieth is the magic bean master. We all know Patrick Reed can sometimes find a way to make his own magic beans.
He is certainly no short on magic, especially on and around the greens. I'm glad you mentioned Victor Hovland. He's kind of where I'm starting to plant my flag a little bit. 2 of his PGA Tour victories coming in windy conditions in Puerto Rico, and Mayakoba adds a European Tour victory just a couple of weeks ago. His short game, much improved, not good, much improved. And just what Geoff mentioned, if you hit every single green, you don't have to worry about getting out of greenside bunkers or anything like that. I like that take. If we start going a little bit further down the board, you were earlier mentioning kind of the 60s and 70s. This is where you start to see Joaquin Niemann, Brandon Grace, Mark Leishman, Justin Rose, maybe even a couple of veterans like Lee Westwood and Sergio Garcia. Is there anything in this range that you've taken a bite at?
Always tempted by this range, Rick, but I jumped just a bit in front of it. Or when I got my bet in, I guess it would have been in this range. But it's Daniel Berger still sitting at 55 to 1 using that odds checker grid. 55 to 1 for Daniel Berger. T7 at the U.S. Open. Such a great ball striker. I have bet Berger at every major championship this year. He had so much steam for the Masters, and that was probably silly because I don't think he'd ever broken 70 there. And maybe that was my own fault. But, he's a Florida kid, so he's played those windy conditions in Florida. And, we all know the stories of growing up playing cash games against professionals as a youngster out there in Palm Beach Gardens. Daniel Berger checks my boxes for above 50 to 1, Rick.
Yeah, so he's basically 50 to 1 across the board. Bet365 does have him at 55 to 1. Well-rounded game, which you think is going to come in handy, certainly at an Open Championship. I went with Joaquin Niemann. He is essentially 65 to 1, 66 to 1 across the board, and I worry about the short game. I worry that he is the guy who makes a triple out of a greenside bunker or something like that. But the piercing ball striking, the low flighting trajectory at an Open Championship, and all the skills across the rest of his game are certainly intriguing to me. Geoff, how far, because we're starting to get into the range, the 80s, the 100s and above. How much did you look down here? I know Open Championships can be a little bit random, especially more compared to a Masters. How much action are you getting down here?
I love what you just said, because I have a Christmas time 125 to 1 Joaquin Niemann.
There you go.
Future that we made on our season previews, Mayo and I. So that would be a beautiful one to come home this week. I never go too far, Rick.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone wants to point to Ben Curtis and Darren Clark, and I'll just still die on the hill of those being absolute outliers. Coincidence that it happened at the same course? Maybe. But when you really do break down who's won the Open Championships, whether it be from world ranking or odds, it really just emboldened me to stick to the plan I do stick to in most of the strong field events, which is, if I do have a strong lean near the top, I'd never be afraid to play it. But it is that sort of 30 to 60, 70, 80 to 1 range that I believe we get the majority of winners, especially my cards filled with guys that have never won majors before. But looking at the world rankings of all the guys, like Louis, there's 3 guys who ranked higher than 40, and that would be Clark, Curtis, and Louis. And we could, history's been kind to Louis, where we even look at his 54th in the world at the time and can acknowledge, no, like we know he belongs with that other class. So I'm not going too far. Are the outliers higher probability here than, say, a U.S. Open? Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not really going to take that chance. That being said, I love doing this stuff, and people are always like, find me 100 to 1 winner. I do have one, but just in front of that, Rick, it's 80 to 1, and no one should be surprised that I have decided to back Ricky Fowler.
There it is. Week.
The check marks, they're slowly coming back. He always seems to crave Open Championship golf. Might it be an enormous ask for Ricky still, despite some nice forms, despite a lot of trends? Like, he checks some of the nice trend boxes that have led to Open Championship winners in the past. Absolutely. But listen, I'm a weak man, and I've abandoned Tony Finau this week because of his just disastrous lead in play. I can't not be there for my guy, Ricky.
The putter's starting to come back for Ricky Fowler. That's his weapon. That's a good sign, because without that, it puts a lot of stress on the rest of his game. This one, you're going to want to shop. Fox bet as short as 33 to 1, but the best number you can get, is that laughable? That's pretty good, right? 80 to 1 over at DraftKings and Resorts Casino. Unibet has it as well. So certainly worth a good shop. Okay, you teased 100 to 1. You gave us an 80 to 1. Who's your triple digit guy?
So the guys in the triple digits that would have my attention this week, Matt Wallace. I don't know. Just for 100 to 1, find me a winner. It's Matt Wallace. It's maybe it doesn't show up in the models, but it's sort of that tenacity and familiarity that I would like to back this week. And as I did mention about it on Mayo's show yesterday morning, because I can't help myself, Rick, I pulled a 275 to 1 on my guy, always in my heart. Maybe the only reason I'm sitting in front of this camera right now would be Denny Willett, in a very, bear with me, in a poor man's Patrick Reed. He literally only steps up for big events. All his wins just seem to be big events. He has 2 top 6s at Open Championships, including a 6th at Portrush. If it plays as nasty as it might, maybe he's in play. The current form, not nearly what I would want it to be. But if anybody is going to magic man this from an English perspective, it would be Denny in my mind.
And you personally move the line because he's now 200 to 1 over at DraftKings, and 275 is not available. All because of you, Geoff. You moved the whole market. Congratulations.
Yeah, I doubt that. And I will throw in there, Rick, one guy I did wager who I did not get to here. Also, no surprise to people who do watch my videos. I am backing Tommy Fleetwood. I have it at 50 to 1. I would still back. I'll even re-up at 40 to be in with you guys. I think he cherishes this. He relishes it. I made this bet a couple weeks out, like any decent round. By a couple weeks out, I mean when he shot a really nice Thursday at the Scottish Open. I was like, I'm betting Fleetwood.
I'm in
next week. So there it is. Those are my bets. And when I don't make a bet under 25, 22, 20 to 1 in a major, Rick, it gives me a lot of money to play with. So it was weird, because normally I do plant a flag near the very top in major championship golf, but I decided to just skip that wave.
Yeah, I was surprised. I like it though, because it gives you access to a lot of different names further down the board in an event that could turn very, very chaotic. So a very well-structured and well thought out card for you, Geoff. Any final thoughts? I mean, this is going to be fun. It's golf in the middle of the night. It's injecting coffee into the veins at all hours. It's being at the mercy of the weather. It's going to be different. We haven't had one in 2 years. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I am super pumped to it, Rick. The fact of the matter is, you have sat here and joined me, and I don't need a full description, but other than Hovland and Neiman, People probably want to know what you're licking your lips for.
Yeah, so Hovland and Neiman are certainly the middle where you started. I'm deciding between Brooks and Spieth.
Makes sense. I'm the
Yeah.
only guy. One of them's going for their 5th major. One of them's going for their 4th major. I like to bet guys with no majors. If Spieth wins this tournament, I will probably have to delete Twitter for 2 days because everyone is going to be rich but me.
The Spieth creativity is certainly exciting. And then when you start to go down into the longer shots, this is where I start to get a little bit worried about whether these guys can actually win. So I've kind of taken the opportunity on, Alex Noren, not at a 90-1 number, but like the top 10 number instead. Lucas Herbert kind of similarly. I start to get really concerned about their legitimate outright win equity. So I kind of just try to focus. Yeah, that's 6. I think, Neiman, Hovland, deciding between Brooks and Spieth, and then sprinkling down some of those guys in the 80-100 is going to be my card by the time this thing kicks off.
Beautiful.
Love it. Well, we'll be back next week to do this again, as we will moving forward. Geoff, very much appreciated. You can go over to oddschecker.com/US for the grid that I've been showing over the course of the video, but that'll do it for now. Good luck. Have a great morning golf. I can't wait for this. It's going to be awesome.